Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Okay, so kita berjumpa lagi. We meet again. Okay, so for these sessions, right, so I'm going to talk about the lab sessions using the Oracle. Okay, so double check again, right? So we are in lesson 03, V2, week 4. Alright, so continue with the lesson 03, week 2, week 4. And for the previous lessons, week 1, week 2, week 3 is considered done using a face-to-face meeting during our semester. Okay, so for these lessons, week 4, lesson 3, week 4, so we are going to talk about using a single row function to customize output. Okay, so what is this is this functions. Okay, so normally, okay, in these lessons, alright, so describes the various types of function available in SQL, and also if let's say you all still remember, okay, so I talk about three main data type that we are going to discuss and use in these lessons. That is a character, or sometimes they call it as a string, a number, and also date function. Okay, so we are going to use these three functions in the select statement. Okay, so for the next one, so for the lesson agenda for today, we're going to talk about single rows SQL functions. If let's say for this video, we can finish a single, and then after that look into a character functions, number functions, and also with the working dates. Right, so maybe I will break this video into three or four parts, okay, because that's too long. Okay, so continue with the single row SQL functions. Okay, all right, so move to the next slides. Okay, what is SQL functions? Okay, so based on the previous discussions, all right, so these functions we can use to perform, okay, calculations on the data. So to perform the calculations, all right, modify the individual data item. That is what we call as manipulations, and during our face-to-face lecture, and of course manipulate, because this is what we call DML, and data manipulation language. Okay, format dates, and also we are going to look into a format for the dates and also number, and also convert the column data types. Okay, so this is the main functions for this chapter. All right, so move to the next one. Okay, so for the single SQL functions, right, so as usual in any process, in ICT or in any process, okay, so we should have something like this: input, process, and also at the end of the day we're going to take going to have an output. Okay, so this is the normal process for any ICT process and also functions. Okay, so we have an input, and then the input will be processed and come out with the output. Okay, so in our case, in our example, so the input may be based on the argument, and also the function will perform, okay, all the calculations and come out with the result. Okay, so the next one. Okay, so got two types of SQL functions. Okay, number one, this is what we call as a single row functions, and number two, multiple row functions. Okay, what is the difference? Okay, if let's say for the single row functions, consider one output, okay, and then put inside the single row functions, and it will produce one result. Okay, return one result per row, compared to the multiple row functions. Right, so if let's say we look here, we have a multiple row inputs into the functions, and at the end of the day we still have one result. The function still return one result per set of of row. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay, number one is single row function, number two is multiple row function. Okay, so we are going to look into the single row function first. All right. Okay, the next one. Okay, so for the single row functions, okay, of course, from the previous discussions, okay, I already explained. Okay, so this will manipulate the data item, meaning that all the data in the tables, okay, is still intact, but the output, we can manipulate the output based on the process itself. Okay, so in this case, we are going to use a single row functions. Okay, also accept argument and return one value, like I mentioned earlier in the previous slides. Okay, one input, process, and produce one output, one value, and act on each row that is returned. Okay, each row that returns. So, and of course, return one result per row. May modify the data types. Okay, this is what we call data type. Okay, I repeat again. So we have three data type: main data type, character, number, and also date. Okay, so we're going to use these three data type. Okay, the next one is can be nested. Okay, nested means, okay, if let's say the example, and in select we have another select. So, okay, if let's say we have something like this, if, and inside the if we have another if, inside if we have another if. So this is what we call nested. Nested. In this example, we call it as a nested if. If let's say we use a select, so we have something like this select. Inside the select we have another select. Okay, this is what we call nested. Right. So please bear in mind. Okay, this is what we call nested. And then also accept argument that can be columns or expression. Okay, this is another things that you need to identify. Is accept argument that can be columns or expression. So meaning that maybe based on the column, like I mentioned earlier, this is our column. Okay, this is column 1, column 2, and so on. So the argument will accept this column or any expression. Okay, move to the next one. Look into the example. Okay, so this is the function name. Alright, this is the function name. Okay, we look into the argument 1, argument 2, and so on, and then produce one output. Okay, next. Okay, so for this example, for this lesson, we're going to look into maybe these three items first. Alright, so character, number, and also date. Okay, so for this session, and later, maybe in the next video, I'm going to look into the conversions and also the general NVL and so on. I will explain later. Okay, next. Okay, so we look into the character function first, and then we'll go to the number and also working dates. Okay, so for the character function, a single row character function accepts character data as input and can return both character as numerics, as both character and also numeric value. Alright, so in this case, if let's say you still remember, okay, this is our input. Okay, and the next one, we have another output. So for the character function, for the character, so char here. Okay, so we have two things that we can use for this function. Number one is a case conversion. Case meaning that for the text or character, for the text or character or the string itself. Okay, this is what we call as a case conversion. So we can convert from the lower case to uppercase, from the uppercase to the initial capital letter case, and so on. Okay, and the next one, we are going to convert or use a character manipulation functions. Okay, I will explain later what is concatenation, subs, str, lang, and so on. Okay, so on and so forth. Okay, so we look into this case conversion function first. Okay, for the next session, for the next slides. Okay, so for these functions, convert the case for character string is quite simple. It's very simple and very straightforward. Okay, so this is the functions. This is the functions. So this is function. So lower, and then in bracket and parenthesis SQL cost. Okay, so this is our character. This is our character. All right, so SQL cost is our character. In these functions, the SQL cost, okay, it will be written in S, Q, and L's, upper letter, or what we call as a capital letter, C, capital letter, and the rest is a small letter, COURSE. So what we can do, okay, for these functions, and we can convert the functions, so from this character to this character. So meaning that we put an input as SQL cost, and then we use the functions, what we call as a lower, LOWER, and it will produce a result like this, okay, SQL cost. So all the character in the result will be produced using a small or a lower letter case, a lower letter case. Okay, meaning that lower case, huruf kecil. All the result will be produced as a lower case. We call it a lower case, SQL cost. Okay, so that is the main attentions for this one. Okay, so if let's say we use upper in this example, we use upper, and the function is upper. Okay, this is what we call as a function. This is what we call a function. Lower, upper, init, cap. This is function. This function can convert. Convert what? Convert the case. What is the case? This is the case. Okay, this is the case. SQL cost into character string, and based on whatever function that we determine here. Okay, so the next one, if let's say we use upper SQL cost, all the functions, all the results, okay, will produce in the upper letter or uppercase, SQL, CORUSE, uppercase or upper letter. Okay, so compared to the first one is lower, so we will produce lower, but the data is still going to be the same. The only thing is the results or the output is different. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, because we are in the terms of DML, data manipulation language. We just manipulate the language, right? We are not going to change any data inside the table. Okay, so if let's say can understand, okay, we move to the next one. Okay, if let's say for the initial caps, SQL cost, okay, so this is what we call as initial cap, S and also C, SQL. S is upper letter, kemudian followed by the small letter, C upper letter, and then after that followed by the small letter. Okay, so this is the functions to convert the character or case for the SQL. Okay, so if let's say in these examples, we're going to use something like select the jobs ID for upper. So meaning that it's going to change the last name of the column of the last name, call it as last name, into the uppercase, and also column for the job ID convert into the lowercase, as an employee details. Okay, this is what we call as a column alias. Okay, this is what we call as a column alias. Okay, we change the column names. Okay, so if let's say we look into these details, okay, this is column alias. All right, so last name is here. Okay, so all the last name will be converted into uppercase, because we are going to use upper for the last name, and job ID is here. Okay, so all the jobs ID will be converted into a small or a lower letter or a lower case. Okay, from table of employees. Okay, so this is example number one. Okay, we move to the next one. Okay, using case conversion functions, all right? So it's going to be the same, using the case conversion function. Okay, display the employee number, names, and also department number for employee Higgins. All right, so when we talk about this one, where last name is equals to Higgins, but it will give you 0 rows selected. Why? Okay, why? Okay, like I mentioned earlier in our face-to-face class, okay, this is because maybe we already put, okay, in our database, in our table, something like this, Higgins. So Higgins here started with the letter H, upper letter for the H, but when we search using the SQL functions, we just types Higgins, all the small letters. So if we compare to this one, okay, it will not match. It will not match the data. Okay, H and H is no matching. Okay, so it will produce 0 row selected. Okay, so how to solve this problem? Okay, how to solve this problem? Right, so quite simple. So that's why we use a case conversion function. Okay, we use a case conversion function. We put here, okay, select employee ID, last name, department ID from employees where lower last name is equals to Higgins. So meaning that whatever data that we create or we put in the table, it will convert the data into a small letter case, okay, lower letter case. So if let's say this is Higgins letter case, here also, in this argument also, Higgins will convert into a small letter. So if let's say we compare to this one, it will be matched. Okay, Higgins and Higgins. Even though, okay, in our database, H is a upper letter case. Right. So because we already convert the column name here into a lower case. So if let's say we compare lower and lower, it will be matched. Then it will produce this output. Compared to this one, okay, this is considered H Higgins upper letter, and when we compare to this one, this is small letter, so it will not match. So that's why it will produce a 0 row selected. Okay, so hopefully you can understand this one. So this is why we need to put the use case conversion function. We need to put a case conversion function to compare, and at the same time we can get the result even though we put maybe a small letter or a capital letter in our original data, okay, database or table. Okay, move to the next one. Okay, so for this one, it's considered be done. Maybe you can put uppercase here, and maybe you can put lowercase, and maybe you can put lowercase. If let's say you put uppercase here, so this is upper. Just imagine if let's say you put here upper, and then also last name. Please make sure Higgins here must be upper letter. Okay, please. All right. If let's say you put here upper, and compared to this last name, in this comparison we must put Higgins all capital letter or upper letter case. So then it will compare. So upper and upper, then it will produce the same result here, Higgins. All right. So I think our next slides is going to be talk about the character manipulation functions. Okay. So in this case, I will stop. So we just conclude again for this parts for this session. All right. So we already finished the case conversion here, case conversion functions for the lower, upper, and initial cap, and we will continue with this one in our next video. Okay, so for that, thank you very much. Okay, I will see you again in our next video. continue with the character manipulations functions. Okay, slide number 12 or 13. Okay. Alright, so with that, okay, we continue again with slide number 13 and character manipulation function. With that, thank you very much. Okay, I see you again in our next sessions, part 2, character manipulation. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.